Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18 Public Beta 1 released a few days ago, along with iOS 18 Beta 3.5 or Beta 3 re-release. iOS 17.6 Beta 4 has also been out a few days, and there's more to talk about since the iOS 18 Beta 3 is out What's New video, and Beta 3.5 is out What's New video. We'll talk about new features, the overall experience since I've been using it full-time on my iPhone 15 Pro Max and iPad Pro, and we'll talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video, there's over 21,000 votes and 242 comments. I've gone through all of the comments to determine what the overall experience is like for most people. Now, as far as news this week, I first wanted to mention a couple different things. There was a story this week from Wired how Apple had apparently trained AI models on YouTube content using video subtitles without YouTube or creators' consent, using a data set in development of its open source OpenELM models. However, Apple has since said Apple Intelligence nor any of Apple's AI or machine learning features are powered by any of this data, and they are not using OpenELM and not integrating it into any of its commercial AI features. Apparently, they're not planning to develop it any further in the future as well. This was done from using subtitle files downloaded by a third party for creators such as MKBHD, MrBeast, PewDiePie, and more than 48,000 channels and 170,000 videos, including some of mine. You can actually see this by going to this website here. I can link this in the description. And if we scroll down, it says, was your video used to train AI? And you can search your channel here, and you'll see there's about 26 of them. So there was no consent given by me or any other YouTubers, and Apple has said they're not using this, but they did use it in development of that model, it seems. So I'm curious what you think about this. It's odd to have your own content used for that. It's also something that I think could benefit people in the future, but it's one of those things that's open for debate. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Apple actually updated a few apps this week as well in preparation for the Summer Olympics, and will continue to do so once it starts. Maps actually has some updates. So if you're using Apple Maps, let's go into that. Maps has more locations with many more details for different things that are going on during the Olympics, with not just landmarks and different events, but also venues and things going on during the event. So lots of things such as souvenir shops and public gathering sites, and they're going to actually update Maps with all of the different events here. Also, the TV app has gotten an update as well to go along with this. You'll see there's a dedicated NBC Olympics hub, so all about the Summer Olympics with more information. You can watch the action and go in and see all of the different events going on, when they take place, and if you'd like to watch them, you can just go directly here. There's also going to be an update with podcasts and the news app as well. So lots of different things going on around this, celebrating sports, different athletes, and much more. Now, of course, you've probably heard by now, but Windows actually had a massive outage the other day. It caused outages worldwide to airlines, hotels, and much more. The cause was actually an update to the CrowdStrike Falcon antivirus software installed on Windows 10 PCs. Thankfully, it didn't affect Mac or Linux, but the fix has since been deployed. But of course, it's going to take some time for all of the different IT people around the world to get everything updated and ready to go. So thankfully, that's all it was, but let me know if you were affected. I know checking into different hotels has been a pain for a lot of people, same with catching flights and much more. Now, Apple actually held a small press gathering in New York City this past week showcasing game mode on iOS 18 and some apps. We haven't heard a whole lot about this, but apparently they gathered and saw games such as Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, Valheim, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Diablo Immortal, Zenless Zone Zero, and much more. So maybe we'll hear more about gaming, or maybe we're just getting some updates from Apple how they're going to utilize game mode, and hopefully more app developers will bring AAA titles to the iPhone. A new Apple patent was found that shows that Apple's been working on a way to rank Wi-Fi networks. So meaning that if you have a Wi-Fi network and it doesn't give a whole lot of information about what kind of Wi-Fi network is nearby, it would give you information such as it would be connecting to a coffee shop, restaurant, or even a suspicious network. So that would be a great way to understand what you're actually connecting to, what's around you, and hopefully help give you some tips as to what to maybe enable or disable, or maybe just hide your IP address and things like that altogether. So I think that's great. Hopefully they implement that a little bit later. Now, the new dark icons in iOS 18 are something that people really seem to like, or maybe some people don't like. A recent discovery by Guy Rambo on Mastodon found that Apple is not using AI to do this, but just clever math. So in order to actually flip these back and forth, some of it makes sense. Of course, if it was a white background, you just flip it to black and maybe enhance the icon a little bit. And he actually said, in case you're curious, I've checked the implementation for icon segmentation in iOS 18 to see how they're generating the dark icons. There's no ML or AI involved, it's just all clever math. So it's great to see them bring those dark icon sort of updates to things such as YouTube, other third-party apps. Some don't seem to work, such as Instagram, but maybe we'll see some updates to that in the future. But it's really nice to have them maybe switch back and forth, although some of that doesn't seem to be working 100% where it's in automatic mode, switching from light to dark, but I'm sure it will soon. Now, as far as new features this week, well, with Beta 3 re-release, we did get a couple little updates here and there. One of them actually had to do with messages. I mentioned that in my previous video, so if we go into that, you'll see they've changed the emoji back to what it was before, where you no longer have the separate icon for stickers and things like that. I'm not sure which version I like more. I sort of like that we had the stickers down here, and then you could sort of text those concurrently, but maybe they'll make some sort of modification in Beta 4. Now, wallpaper got a slight update, so if we go into our wallpaper, if you add one of the weather and astronomy updates, so maybe we go to Mars here, and you'll see the text here actually matches. So if we tap on the text, we have a new option here to match what's actually in the photo. Maybe we'll see this with more updates with different wallpapers, but again, this changes as we scroll through. So you'll see it changed here with Saturn. We'll keep going here, Neptune, solar system in general, and it sort of just matches what's in the background. Hopefully we'll see some updates with this in the future, maybe to your own wallpaper, where it can match that automatically and just have an icon for it. Within Photos, there's actually a new feature that will only show up if you actually have it. So if you go into Photos and you scroll down to your utilities, if you have recovered photos and videos, there'll be a recovered photos and video option. Then you can go into those if they're not on the device and actually get those from here into your device. So you'll see here, I don't have any recovered photos or videos, but I have recently viewed and things like that. But if you do have recovered, they'll show up here and then you can restore them if you'd like. Now, as far as updates and releases this week, of course, we had all of the betas I already mentioned, but we also got a Safari technology preview. This brings it up to version 199, and it's available for macOS Sequoia and Sonoma. So if you're testing out different things for the web, or you just want to try out the technology preview with the new features and changes, check out the release notes. You can do that now. Now, of course, this upcoming week, I would expect iOS 17.6 RC, based on the build number of the previous update here. I would expect that, and maybe it'll have some new features, things we're not expecting, and hopefully a list of all those features as well, and security updates. Then we could have a public release probably a week after that. So that's what I would expect, probably Monday or Tuesday. And then also in a couple weeks, I would expect iOS 18 Beta 4 and public Beta 2, probably on the week of the 29th, probably around the same week or time frame of iOS 17.6's public release. Then we'll move on to iOS 17.7 betas the week after that or so, and then of course we'll have those up until the final release of iOS 18, or the first public release, in usually the second week of September. That's what I would expect for upcoming releases. Now, as far as overall experiences this week, well, they're a little bit different than previous updates. iOS 17.6 Beta 4, while it previously was very, very stable, Beta 4, many people report a lot of lag. This was not there in previous betas. Some people will go into things such as the App Store and just scroll, and it lags all over the place. I've heard this from multiple users, so it's definitely widespread. It's an issue, and make sure if you haven't already, you report it in the feedback app. That's definitely something I would recommend. As far as iOS 18 Public Beta 1 and Beta 3 re-release, well, that's much, much better this time around, at least than Beta 3, Beta 2, or Beta 1. It's definitely more usable, but it is a mixed experience for many. Some people do have issues with it, and there are some bugs still worth talking about. One of them in particular has to do with photos, where there's some bugs in it where you took a photo, ProRAW images don't seem to show properly or don't show in a high resolution. Deleted messages keep returning for some, so if you're messaging someone and you've deleted them, sometimes they come back. I've actually experienced, and I know someone else that's experienced, phone calls not coming in when they should, even if you're not on Do Not Disturb, and also slow shortcut activation. So if you're using a shortcut, sometimes they're just very, very slow. If we go into settings, some people that are using screen time are having issues with that. So screen time in general, before it would just crash when you try to open it. Now it's just not working properly for a lot of people. The control center seems to reset whatever your layout is after you reboot. Sometimes it just goes back to what it was previously. Also, RCS is still sending out multiple messages for some people to Android users. So lots of little bugs here and there. Of course, it's an early beta, and you can see all of those bugs in the feedback app. So there's a lot of them, plus more that we're experiencing. So if we go into this, give it a second here, go into the inbox, you can see 17.6 beta 4 and the beta 3 notes as well. So if we go to beta 3, there's lots of different things, lots of fixes and resolved issues as well, over 150 or so, but definitely still some bugs. So if you're having anything specific, be sure to check this out, see if it's recognized. If it's not, be sure to submit it in feedback. Connectivity has been pretty good. I've been traveling a little bit, and the overall connectivity has been pretty good traveling. I really haven't had many issues, whether that's on Wi-Fi or off Wi-Fi. Seems to work just fine. No issues there. I did hear of a couple people having connectivity issues where it would drop, but Wi-Fi in general seems to be quite good. It's connecting fast for a lot of people and not dropping over and over. Now, as far as the camera and whether or not there's any improvements, well, I've heard quite a few complaints this time around. Not just the raw photos I was mentioning before, but things such as focusing properly. So just trying to focus on something. Someone else said that it just was having some odd processing where they were trying to take a photo of someone with a back or a light background behind them with maybe the blue sky, and it just sort of grayed out their face. It's not recognizing people, it's not focusing properly, and not processing them as you would expect. So some odd issues here and there with that. As far as overall performance, well, iOS 18 Beta 3 re-release and iOS Public Beta 1 in general seem to be pretty good. There's definitely a little ways to go here for Apple to fix this, but things such as ProMotion are nice and smooth. Just scrolling back and forth and just general use seems to be pretty good. Occasionally I'll have some issues loading Safari pages. That could be due to Private Relay or something like that, but in general it seems to be generally fast and very usable, especially compared to previous betas, even Beta 3. As far as the overall heat of the device, well, it's much cooler after a few days. It cooled down quite a bit, and it's a little bit warm right now, but in general, it's nice and cool. If we take a look with the thermal camera, you'll see we're right around 31 degrees Celsius on iOS 18 Beta 3 re-release in the hottest point. And then if we go to the next one here, 17.6 Beta 4, around 27.5 degrees Celsius. And on iOS 18 again, right around 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And on iOS 17.6 Beta 4, around 84 degrees Fahrenheit. As far as benchmarks go, I did run them right before this video, and I had 2,790 for single core, 6,908 for multi-core. It's better than we had right after installing it, so you can see that here. Much better overall, and definitely a lot higher. Not as good as what we had with previous iOS 17 updates, but definitely improved there. But the overall experience seems to be pretty good, especially after it's processed everything. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the battery, since I've been using this full time. So we'll go to battery, then we'll go to battery health, and you'll see I have 250 cycles, and it recently dropped down to 94%. It's pretty typical. About every 250 cycles or so, you can expect about 5% on the 15 series phones. Apple says 1,000 cycles in ideal conditions, when will get you down to about 80% or so. If we go back to the last 10 days, yesterday I had 2 hours and 58 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 56 minutes of screen idle time, and used about 75% of the battery or so. The day before was a little bit less usage there. It just depends. It gets me through the day for the most part, but toward the end of the day, I'll still have to plug it in. It's not ideal yet, but it is an early beta still. I hope it improves greatly in the next one. Let's take a look from a user as well. Abhishek sent in his battery life on an iPhone 11 Pro Max with 78% battery health, and this is running iOS 18 Public Beta 1. He had 7 hours and 31 minutes of screen on time, 2 hours and 52 minutes of screen off time, and used over 100% as he probably charged it. So that was through the day having to charge it. The next day, 4 hours and 47 minutes of screen on time, and he used over 50% of his battery. Now, I've heard from some people that it gets great battery life. Others say it's terrible. Mine seems to be pretty normal for an early beta, but thanks for sending that in. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 18 Public Beta 1, if you're questioning it at this point, wondering about bugs and concerned about that, I'd probably wait for Public Beta 2 and see how that does after a few days. As far as 17.6 Beta 4, I'd probably hold off on that unless you're already on 17.6 betas. But in general, I would expect all of those things to come out very soon with 17.6 RC and Public Beta 2 in a couple weeks. Now let's take a look at some of your comments and see what you had to say. Perlinde Svensson says, as you know, the iOS 18 beta has not been all that great for me and my iPhone 15 Pro in Denmark, not even with Beta 3. But with Beta 3 re-release 3.5, it seems more like the iOS beta software I used to know, so it's beginning to look and feel like what I hope for the new iOS 18 to be like. Robbie Parr 3753 said, 18 Beta 3 re-release, iPhone 14 Pro, much improved functionality. App icon tinting works well, Control Center doesn't reset automatically like it did before, battery seems fine, animations are smooth, and generally the OS is glitch-free. Craig Joyce Coaching 7153 said, I'm using the iOS 18 public beta on my 14 Pro. I'm pleasantly surprised at how stable it is. Other than some very occasional freezes, I haven't found any bugs. Battery life is also phenomenal considering it's a beta, getting about the same in public beta 1 as I was with 17.6 beta 1. Getting to the end of the day with between 40 to 50% charge. Tech Life and More said, I've been using the iOS 18 public beta on my iPhone XR for the past week. It actually seems a bit more smoother than 17.5.1 on that device. I'm using 17.5.1 on my iPhone 12. No major issues with either. Jerry Ledesma 1 said, currently using iPhone 14 Pro Max with iOS 17.6 beta 4. This has been the glitchiest ever beta I've ever experienced. The phone lags and looks like it's about to freeze. Tim Chisonis says, iPhone 15 Pro Max running iOS 18 Beta 3 saw a huge increase in battery life over Beta 2. I found that when scrolling through Apple Notes, it was very glitchy, shuddering like when scrolling. Other than that, love it. You're doing a great job, Aaron. Thank you. MW0928 said, my battery life on iOS 18 public beta for my 15 Pro has been okay so far, getting about 5 hours a day from 95% to 30%. Very rarely do I get any bugs at all. Love the new features such as dark mode icons. So that's everything with iOS 18 Public Beta 1 or Beta 3 re-release and iOS 17.6 Beta 4. Let me know your experience in the comments, and if you found any additional features, I'd love to hear from you as well. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time. Oh, and if you notice something different this time around, I'm actually in a hotel recording on the road, so things might look a little bit different, but let me know what you think of it in the comments.